The raw power and absolute scale of nukes can make for some of the most awe-inspiring and impressive footage you can find. But if there's one thing that's bothered me, it's that I've never fully understood the differences in absolute scale and destructive power of different size nukes. So today, to satisfy my own curiosity, and hopefully yours too, I've put together an awesome compilation of nuke footage and data. But I've also got something extra special for you. 3D renders of each nuke, their mushroom cloud, and their impact radius alongside Central Park. This is a bit of this and that on the absolute scale of nukes. Before we get into the insane numbers like millions or billions of kilos of TNT, we need to give our brains a chance. So we're gonna start small and work our way up. First up, we have 100 grams of TNT, or 0.1 kilos. This is pure TNT and a pretty similar size to a powerful firecracker. Next up, we have a blast 10 times the size, 1 kilogram of dynamite in ice. Now, I don't know if you know this, but explosions underwater are typically more dramatic because water can't be compressed. Just take a look at these tiny firecrackers doing way more damage than anyone would expect. Moving on, we have an explosion 5 times the size of the last. 5 kilograms of TNT inside a car. This one is 10 times the size of the last. 50 kilograms of TNT inside a house. These guys got really lucky. See that structure over there? Keep an eye out for that later in the video, because I have something towards the end that is guaranteed to blow your mind when you see it. Now check this, another 10x move and we have 500 kilograms of TNT packed together. Or how about this, twice that and we move up to 1 ton. You see that little thing there? That's a concrete mixing truck about to be made to look like a toy. What about 5 tons? Or 10 tons. All right. Enough of these non-nuclear booms. Let's get into something a little bit more interesting. This is the Davy Crockett.
The world's smallest nuclear warhead.
A bit over 2,000 were made and they could shoot a 34 kilogram payload 2 kilometers away. This is filmed from 2.8 kilometers away and it looks sizable but not massive. Here's what it would look like if it was blown up in Central Park. One of the most telling pieces of information you can get from this is the size of the mushroom cloud relative to the buildings. Another one is the different coloured rings stemming from the centre of the blast. I'll explain the coolest of these soon, and the stats for each explosion are always going to live here. But for now, I want to give you some real world, on the ground footage of what Central Park actually looks like. If you couldn't tell from the accent, I live in Australia, so I had zero context as to how big Central Park actually was. But I chose it because it's well known, surrounded by massive buildings, just pretty in general, and had some long clear views to give us the best opportunity to understand scale. The location I've chosen to detonate is Sheep Meadow. Take a look at the background footage here to get an understanding of how big this small part of Central Park actually is. See the map here? This is Sheep Meadow, and this is Central Park. The total area is 4 kilometers lengthways and 800 meters across. Using some basic math, we find that we can fit over 590 football fields in it. Wild stuff. But this is nothing compared to what's coming. Trust me. I want to quickly show you what a 100-ton explosion looks like. So take a look at this disposal of weapons in Iraq. It wasn't detonated at exactly the same time, but close enough to help us to understand scale.
Explosion, please!
I hope you were paying attention to that park footage I just showed you, because I'll be detonating each bomb from now on in the same location, Sheep Meadow. Now, moving on to some footage from 1965, Operation Sailor Hat. Using 500-ton explosions, the US wanted to test the effects of nukes on naval ships. Take a look at some of this footage from the documentary.
Waters to space, out of the sky. A life-size mannequin placed on the deck of one ship is blasted off its feet with frightening force. Heavy rain.
Did Did you see that dummy go flying, or the walls of the ship getting buckled? That is a crazy amount of power, and as these explosions are getting bigger, the same effects are going to be happening further and further away. So now I think it's a good time for me to explain what these coloured circles are, and more importantly, how they relate to real life. And to do that, I'll be showing you footage from a 15 kiloton test nuke shot from an atomic cannon. This yellow one here is fireball radius. Kind of self-explanatory, but it's how big the sphere of the actual fireball will be. The best part is that I've downloaded files to show you what it would look like in 3D. Red here is heavy blast damage, or 20 PSI overpressure, which essentially is just any amount above the norm. But it's defined as heavily built concrete buildings are severely damaged or demolished. But I think this piece here will give you a pretty good idea. Just check out how the heat reaches the house first, burns off the paint, and then the shockwave comes. This next one, which I think is the most relatable, is this inner grey circle here for moderate blast damage. 5 PSI overpressure. Now to show you what 5 PSI overpressure looks like, take a look at some of these tests done to cars to simulate the blast from a nuke. The hydraulic press guy used 25 kilos of dynamite to simulate what a 300 kiloton nuke would look like from 1.75 and 4 kilometers away.
A huge pile of dynamite on end of that pole. We are going to demonstrate the pressure effect of nuclear bomb.
So, using Nuke Map, we can see that a 300 kiloton blast at 1.75 kilometers away puts us just outside of heavy blast damage range. And within 4 kilometers puts us within the light blast damage zone. So while this footage isn't going to be 100% accurate, use it to get an understanding of what a heavy and a light blast damage zone would look like.
Gain, nice.
Now I've spent so much time explaining this for 2 reasons. 1, I want you to fully understand the consequences of what a nuke can do. And 2, if we can apply what we've learned here today to the upcoming videos, we're going to get a true understanding of all this scale. Let's start with the consequences first. This is Operation Upshot Grable, a 15 kiloton nuke shot from a 280mm cannon 11 kilometers away. A different angle here, and the mushroom cloud forming here. So you've seen footage of the cloud itself, so try to take in how big it actually is compared to a real city. These stats here show deaths and injuries, assuming the explosion was nuclear. So keep an eye out for these as we progress up the scale. And take special note of the red circle, because the footage I'm showing here is what you could expect to have to deal with if you were caught in the radius. A similar sized nuke at the testing at Bikini Atoll. And yes, this is the one that SpongeBob always shows. And it was the inspiration for the show because of the nuclear fallout allowing the creatures to talk.
All time.
The scale of these nukes are getting so crazy that the explosions themselves are looking slow. So I'll be speeding up the footage from now on.
1,000,000 tons of water alive with deadly rays.
A big thank you to Vivid History who was able to restore this old footage and give us these crisp and smooth videos. Do you see how minuscule these Navy warships look in comparison? Just look at how much water is displaced from a 23 kiloton nuke. Take a look at this footage and you'll get an understanding of how big these ships actually are. Now imagine you're standing on deck and you see this insane amount of water coming at you. Crazy. And here's one from 1955. Operation Teapot. This was shot to directly focus on the fireball that it creates. This footage was shot at 2400 frames per second. With a playback at 24 frames per second, that makes it 100 times slower than real life. Fun fact, the Trinity tests in Oppenheimer were done under this operation. But honestly, compared to the real thing, I don't think it does it justice. Now, as I was watching my video back, I realized that I still didn't have a true sense of scale. I knew that I still needed to give you all some footage from a first-person view with direct comparisons to the nuke I was referencing. So I went to a bridge near my house and I took this. Now this 22 kiloton fireball I just showed you has a radius of 304 meters, which means its diameter is over 600 meters across. The distance between these 2 points I'm zooming into here is pretty much bang on 500 meters. So try to imagine just the fireball spanning this distance and more.
Subscribe!
What?
I said subscribe!
Now we're going to be moving to slightly crazier territory, when the US was developing nukes during the Cold War. Operation Dominic 1962, 100 kilotons. That's 100,000 tons, or 100 million kilos of TNT. Now this is starting to get insane. This fire is burning seemingly forever, so it's a good time for me now to explain this orange ring. Anyone caught in here is 100% guaranteed to receive 3rd degree burns if in direct line of sight of the bomb. Operation Ivy, the largest pure fission explosive test ever done by the US. 5 times the size of the last at 500 kilotons. Just look at the fireball from this low angle. Absolutely insane. Central Park Tower is 472 meters high. The fireball you just saw is more than double that. And the cloud. Phew. And look how well you can see it from this island, 345 kilometers away. We're getting close to the end and we're moving from kiloton to megaton territory. This here is the absolute largest nuclear test ever done by the US. Operation Castle Bravo at 15 megatons or 15,000 kilotons. That's 30 times larger than Operation Ivy. If you've noticed, the explosion is still emitting light within the mushroom cloud above the cloud line. Just the fireball itself is over twice the length of Central Park and would be estimated to kill around 4 million people, not including the effects of nuclear fallout. And now, for the finale, we have the largest nuclear blast ever detonated on planet Earth. The Tsar Bomba. Detonated by Russia in 1961, this is over 3 times the size of Castle Bravo at 50 megatons. That's 50,000 kilotons, or 50 million tons, or 50 billion kilos of TNT, detonated all at once. Now there isn't a whole lot of footage here, but the mushroom cloud gets to 60 kilometers high, around 15 Central Parks stacked on top of each other. And for the 3D footage, I don't even have anything to say. Just see for yourself. Okay, I said earlier that I had something that was going to blow your mind, and I promise you it will. Because when I realized the sheer scale of this nuke while I was standing here, I could hardly comprehend it. The distance between me and that structure over there is about 1.5 kilometers, and between me and that tower is about 3.5. Meaning the total distance between the tower and that structure is about 5 k's. So, if the Tsar Bomba detonated at the tower, the fireball itself would still reach the structure. But here's where it gets crazy. That's just the radius. Meaning that the fireball, in total, would reach twice that. That's insane. I hope you don't think this is the end just yet, because I got just a little more to give you before I scoot. I know there's been a whole lot of me talking and explaining things, and I thank you for coming with me as far as you have. But now, armed with all the information and sense of scale that we've gathered over the last 15 minutes or so, please enjoy a back-to-back compilation of all the footage I've showed you today.
Стальной столб, поднимающийся с земли, быстро увеличился в объеме. Через несколько секунд после взрыва диаметр пылевого столба.
I've figured that since I put over 120 hours into making this video, it would be nice to have something physical to show for it. So I bought 6,000 push pins and a corkboard. Each one of these represents a subscriber, and I'm going to keep going until I fill the whole board. Each video will have its own dedicated colour, and purple's my favourite, so it made sense for it to be first. 36. So, thank you to the 36 of you subscribed so far. And to the rest of you, I hope to be able to pin you up against my wall one day too.